Hi everyone, my name is Daniela and my group and I chose Art Nouveau for our presentation. So, Art Nouveau is a French term that means new art in English. It was a popular artistic movement that took place between 1890 and 1910. During this time, artists and designers wanted to create something different from the traditional styles that came before. They looked to nature for inspiration, especially focusing on plants like flowers and vines, which they used as main themes in their work. One of the main features of Art Nouveau is its use of curved lines instead of straight shapes. This style emphasized flowing lines that give a sense of movement and elegance. This makes the overall look feel very natural. Now, Art Nouveau wasn't limited to just paintings or drawings, it also influenced many areas of design. You can find its styles in architecture, where buildings have decorative details inspired by plants. It also showed up in furniture designs with pieces that look both artistic and functional. Now, some of the history behind this movement is that during the Industrial Revolution, factories started mass producing things quickly and cheaply. And while this made products more affordable, a lot of the items were plain and boring, lacking real style and beauty. At the time, cities were growing fast and the middle class was expanding. People in the new middle class wanted their homes to look stylish and unique, not just filled with dull, mass produced objects. Because of this, there was a desire to bring back beauty into everyday life, not just something they saw in museums, but things people used in everyday life. The arts and crafts movement helped inspire the Art Nouveau by focusing on handmade objects and designs inspired by nature, and it emphasized quality craftsmanship. So, Art Nouveau was a creative response to industrialization. It combined the new industrial possibilities with an effort to make everyday things beautiful, mixing art and function in a fresh, elegant way. So, the first artist I will be talking about is Gustav Klimt. He was an Austrian artist born in 1862, and he's one of the most famous figures connected to the Art Nouveau movement. He was also one of the founders of the Vienna Secession, which was a group of artists who broke away from the traditional arts scene in Austria because they wanted to explore new styles and ideas instead of following old rules. One thing that makes his work stand out is his use of gold leaf, which give his paintings a glowing decorative look. He also included a lot of detailed patterns, textures, and symbols, making his work rich and layered. His art often showed emotions like love and sadness. Many of his works have actually hidden meanings connected to themes like dreams and life. So the first painting to the left is a portrait of Adele Block Book 1, which is one of Gustav Klimt's most famous works. It was finished in 1907 and shows a wealthy woman named Adele who was part of high society in Vienna at the time. What makes this portrait stand out is how luxurious and decorative it looks. The entire painting is full of gold, which Klimt used an actual real gold leaf to give it a glowing, sparkling effect. That's why it's sometimes called the woman in gold. You can also see small details and patterns throughout the painting. Her dresses and the background are covered in geometric shapes and swirls. This mix of detail and shining surfaces make the whole portrait feel rich and magical to the viewers. And though it's clearly a portrait, it doesn't feel like a typical realistic painting. The background blends in with her clothing, and the focus is more on the overall design and the emotion rather than just her face. This painting is a perfect example on how Klimt combined fine art with decorative design. Now, the painting in the middle is titled The Kiss, which is another one of his most famous paintings, finished in 1908, and it shows a couple sharing a kiss wrapped in golden patterns. It is a setting that looks completely dreamy to viewers, and just like his portrait of Adele, Klimt used a gold leaf to make the entire scene glow. The men and women are covered in beautiful detailed patterns. His robe has more straight lines and rectangles, while hers is softer with circles and floral shapes. The contrast adds to the feeling of balance between them, and even though we don't see much of their face, the way they hold each other feels very intimate. The background fades into gold and soft texture, which makes the couple seem like they're in their own world. It's also a great example of how Art Nouveau combines beauty and symbolism. And lastly, the painting to the right was finished in 1901, called Judith and the Head of Holofernes. It shows a dramatic moment from a biblical story where Judith saves her people by killing the enemy general. In Killam's version, we see Judith holding Holofernes' head, but the focus is on her instead of the violence. When comparing it to older versions of that same one, this one's more focused on her instead of the action of her killing him. Um, in his version, we see that she's holding his head, but the focus, like I said, is on her, and she looks confident, calm, and seductive, which gives the painting a mysterious and dark feeling. Something that's interesting is how he uses beauty and something intense and a little disturbing to create his overall meaning. Judith is surrounded by gold and decorative patterns like in his other works, and she looks elegant. But at the same time, she's holding a head. So this painting is a good example of how Klimt used on a deep emotions and complex themes, because it refers to the power and courage from the biblical story. Like much of Art Nouveau, it blends art and storytelling, using beauty to express something much deeper. Now, the second um, pain the second artist I will be talking about is Alphonse Mucha. He was an artist from what is now Czechia, born in 1860. He became especially famous for his posters, which often feature beautiful women, flowers, and flowing designs. Mucha's big break came when he created a poster for a famous actress named Sarah in 1894. It was so unique that it made him famous almost overnight. After that, he created a lot of posters for theater shows, advertisements, and products. His works helped define the look of Art Nouveau posters. You can always recognize his Mucha style piece by its soft pastel colors, elegant lines, floral backgrounds, and female figures. So the painting to the left is Gismonda, which is one of his most famous works. He created this poster in 1894 for the famous actress Sarah Bernhardt, who was starting in the play of Gismonda in Paris. At the time, posters were usually bold and simple, but Mucha's style was completely different. It was a tall, soft colors and detailed patterns. Sarah is shown in a long robe with flowers and gold decorations, like a queen. This poster was a huge success and made Mucha famous almost instantly. It also helped launch the Mucha style with its flowing lines and nature inspired patterns. Now, the painting in the middle is titled The Seasons, which was created in 1896, and it includes four decorative panels, one for each season: spring, summer, autumn, and winter. Each panel features a woman who represents the season surrounded by natural elements that match the mood and feeling of the time of the year. For example, spring is shown with blossom and pastels, summer is bathed in sunlight and flowers, autumn has warm tones and falling leaves, and winter is wrapped in a cloak with bare trees and snow. The meaning behind these images was to capture the emotions and atmosphere of each one in a beautiful symbolic way. Mucha used flowing lines and natural backgrounds to bring the series to life, and this work became one of his most popular sets, and he even made several versions of it. And the one on the right is Job Cigarettes, which was designed to advertise the Job brand cigarettes papers. Even though it was just an ad, the work is so elegant that it feels more like fine art. The woman in the poster has long flowing hair that curls all around her in decorative swirls, which, as previously mentioned, was one of Muka's signature styles. The poster uses rich colors and gold accents, making it eye catching and luxurious. It shows how Art Nouveau could take something such as everyday as something simple, such as everyday cigarettes, and turned it into something beautiful and artistic. And this poster also became one of Muka's most famous poster, and it helped set the standard for how ads should be both stylish and effective. Some similarities between the two, both Klimt and Muka used gold and decorative patterns to make their art stand out. Their work wasn't just about looking pretty, it also had deeper meanings about life and love. They often mixed nature and fantasy designs, and they both used circular shapes to add magical, dreamlike feeling to their art. But Klimt's did focus more on emotions, while Muka's was more about elegance and beauty and design. Still, they both found unique ways to show how beauty can bring be brought to everyday life. Now, for cultural influences on their art, Klim and Muka were both deeply influenced by their cultures they came from. Muka's work honors Slavic pride. His art celebrated Czech beauty and traditions, especially later in his life with his works like the Slav epic. Klim, on the other hand, reflected the rich and glamorous world of Vienna. His paintings showed the city's love for romance and luxury, but also hinted on a deeper emotion beneath the surface. So, through beauty and symbolism, both artists expressed that what was happening in their world, socially, politically, and culturally, making their art reflect their times. As for common techniques and materials used, both Klimt and Muka used unique ones that helped define their styles. Muka's often used lithography, a type of printing that allowed him to mass produce his posters. This helped make Art Nouveau popular and brought beautiful artistic designs into everyday public spaces. Klimt was known for using gold leaf, which gave his paintings a glowing, luxurious look. It made his work seem royal, especially in pieces like The Kiss and Judith and the Head of Holofernes. Both artists used symmetry and flowing lines in their designs. And these elements all created a sense of balance and elegance that's a key part of the Art Nouveau style. And now, one of the important parts of Art Nouveau was nature. It wasn't just in the background, it also became a part of the design itself. Artists used curvy, flowing lines that copied the shape of plants and flowers. These natural themes showed up in everything from posters and paintings to jewelry and furniture. Nature also added symbolism. For example, flowers often represented femininity, and butterflies could symbolize change and transformation. Overall, nature helped make Art Nouveau feel more alive and meaningful.
Hello, my name is Amy Soto, and these are my slides. Slide number one is natural motives in Art Nouveau. Art Nouveau embraced nature not just as a decoration, but as a design system. Natural motives were a combination of flowers, butterflies, dragonflies, peacocks, and insects. Artists saw nature as both aesthetic and functional. Common motives were ivy covered frames, peacock feathers, patterns, blooming flowers wrapping around body forms. Artists believed natural elements enhanced emotional and symbolic meaning, often tied to femininity, fertility, and transformation. As Greenhalgh said, Art Nouveau emerged in the late 19th century as a reaction to industrial mass production, embracing flowing lines and organic forms and decorative elegance. And these pictures, the one on the top left is Iris Lamp by Lois Comfort Tiffany, and the one to the right is Peacock Feather Patterns by Alfonso Mucha. My second slide is Ornamental Elegance. It was a whiplash of curves, asymmetrical and rhythm, elongated bodies, and elegant composition emphasizing on the harmony between the figures and the ornament. As Silverman said, rooted in the arts and crafts movements, Art Nouveau developed across Europe between 1890 and 1910, influencing architecture, furniture, fashion, and illustration. The art piece to the top left is Job Cigarettes by Alfonso Mucha, and to the right is An Orchid Comb by René Lalique. And my third slide is Aubrey Beardsley, born in 1872 in Brighton, England, died at 25 from tuberculosis in 1898, most famous for black and white illustrations with bold lines and intricate details. Best known for his provocative art in Oscar Wilde's Salome in 1894, helped define the visual style in the Yellow Book, a major aesthetic movement journal. His style featured flowing lines, heavy contrasts, and erotic and grotesque themes. The picture to the left is a climax by him, and the cover of the Yellow Book is to the right, bottom corner. Three of his works were The Peacock Skirt, The Baptist, and The Climax. And as Snodgrass said, Beardsley illustrated for Oscar Wilde's Salome in 1894 showcased the movement's emphasis on bold lines, sensuality, and stylized nature. And slide number 4 is a bio over René Lalique. Born in France in 1860, trained in fine arts and jewelry making, known for combining natural motives with luxury materials. In the early 1900s, rose to fame at Exposition Universal in Paris, later founded a glassmaking company blending Art Nouveau with emerging Art Deco styles. As Duncan said, René Lalique was a French jeweler and a glass designer who became one of the leading figures in art. And then my next slide is influence of Japanese prints. Influence from Japanese print woodblock prints used of asymmetrical line work and minimal backgrounds, especially visible in Beardsley composition. And as the writer said, Japanese ukiyo-e prints had a profound influence on Art Nouveau artists, introducing asymmetrical layouts, flattened perspectives, and bold contour lines. The picture to the top right corner is A Great Wave by Hope Kawase, and to the bottom right corner is The Toilet of Salome by Beardsley. You can really see his style of art of bold, dark, flowing lines, which really suits his style. And then my next slide is the influence of mythology and symbolism. Frequent use of female archetypes were goddess, themes of purity, desire, and fantasy, emphasis on emotion and dreamlike visuals. The picture I chose was The Dancer's Rewards by Beardsley. And my next slide was Natures and Metaphors. And butterflies equals transformation and freedom. Flowers equals femininity, beauty, and fragility. Dragonflies equals power and elegance. As Matthew said, René Lalique butterfly comb is a prime example of how jewelers' design embraced Art Nouveau fascination with nature. Made from horn, gold, enamel, and gemstones, the comb featured delicate butterflies, wings, and flowing curves, lines that echo Japanese art influence. So during this time period, it was really focused on elegance and delicacy. It basically embodied women. My next slide is nature and art symbolism in Art Nouveau. In Art Nouveau, nature wasn't just a decoration, it carried meaning. Artists used flowers, femininity, seasons, and animals to express ideas like femininity transformations, life, and death. These artworks gave everyday objects an image and images emotional and symbolic depth. Flowers and seasons respected femininity and emotions. Insects and dragonflies symbolized change, delicacy, or fleeting life. Trees and vines represented connections between nature and the spirits. And then my last slide is Art Nouveau's legacy. Even Art Nouveau faded after the 1910s. Its style continues to influence today's art, architecture, and design. Art Nouveau's mix of elegance and nature is still alive in how we design and decorate today. Influenced modern design, architecture, and branding. Nature-inspired curves seen in buildings and packagings. A legacy making art part of everyday life. And the picture I chose was Zahidi Haidar Aliyev Center, and is basically showing the flowing lines and how we choose Art Nouveau in our everyday life.
Hi, good afternoon, guys. My name is Julio Bonilla, and this is my portion of our group project of Art Nouveau. I had architecture and furniture, one of my personal favorite subjects to talk about because I'm an architecture student. And yeah, So the role of architecture and furniture in Art Nouveau revolved around this concept of Gesamtkunstwerk, which translated means total work of art or total design. Art Nouveau was never just about buildings. This might sound a little contrived, but it was a total design philosophy. Architects believed um, every element of a building, from the structure itself to the door handles and furniture, everything should follow the same visual language. This total work of art approach is what makes Art Nouveau so distinct from other art movements. Thinking of a building as living as a living and breathing organism, where the exterior, the layout, and the interior design all feel like part of one grand unified natural system. This is why we see so many curved lines and organic forms repeated in both architecture and the furniture. Everything kind of was very harmonious. Some of the common materials and techniques in Art Nouveau revolving architecture uh, were raw iron, glass, wood, mosaics, and tiles, and very strong emphasis on handcrafted details, kind of artisan in a way. Art Nouveau thrived on materials that could be shaped into fluid forms. Raw iron was one of the favorites for its flexibility, especially in railings and balconies. Stained glasses also added color and life, while wood would be used for intricate carvings in furniture and interiors. And then mosaic tiles kind of brought everything together in a vibrant fashion, just lit up interiors basically. And despite the industrialization, Art Nouveau designers held on to handcrafted beliefs and qualities. Every detail mattered. The artistry was visible in everything from the building, the facades to the furniture legs. Again, tying back to the whole total work of art. One famous architect in this time period was Antoni Gaudi. He's easily one of the most iconic figures in Art Nouveau architecture. He was born in Reus, Spain, and his work has become synonymous with Barcelona. While he embraced Art Nouveau's curves and natural motifs, he quickly developed his own personal style by adding Gothic and religious elements to his designs. His designs feel like they've grown from the earth rather than being just built. He used geometry, colors, texture, and in highly symbolic ways. Gaudi's work shows how Art Nouveau can be spiritual, mathematic, and artistic all at once. Some of Gaudi's most noticeable works of art are the three following: Casa Baltayo, uh, Sagrada Familia, and Park Güell. Each of these have a fusion of structure and sculpture. It, in a sense, blurs the lines between the environment and the natural world. In Casa Balto, it looks like it was made almost from like bones and coral, and not to like underwater life. The balcony resembles masks and skulls, and the entire facade feels like, in a sense, that it's alive and breathing. Likewise, the Sagrada Familia, it's still actually in construction. In fact, it is used. It uses symbolism everywhere. The columns are like powerful tree trunks and has high vaulted ceilings that mimic leaves. It's a temple that's part structure as well. And then there's Park Güell. This Park Güell is a park that blends urban planning with landscape. Gaudi uses benches, paths, and pavilions around the hills, um, and adds colorful mosaics and organic forms to it. All three show how he interpreted nature. All these three works of art show how he interpreted nature structurally, not just decoratively. Another famous architect is Hector Guimard. He was born in France and he was Spain's version of Guido. Um, yeah, I'm sorry, he was Spain's version of Gaudi. Spain's own art Nouveau connoisseur in a sense. Hector Guillemard was born in France in 1867. and he was educated at, I'm not gonna try pronouncing that, National School of Decorative Art. He was a prominent French artist, architect slash interior designer, industrial designer, and his legacy unified architecture and industrial design. He believed in designs every element. He designed in every element of a building, from again the furniture to the building itself. Everything was tied and unified. And one of his biggest, most noticeable works of art was these right here, the Dauphine, um, Port Dauphine in Paris. This was part of a grander sculpture that he was commissioned to do uh, in a through the public works. He was definitely most more known for his public works, and that's what made him famous. He, in a sense, brought art to people's everyday lives, which was very much needed back in the day. Some of Guillemard's most noticeable works are the three following: Castel Berganger, from 1895 to 1898. It was built. It's one of the first earliest apartment buildings in France. Um, and it brought Art Nouveau into French housing. It combined various materials, curved lines, and a complete original asymmetric layout. Um, Another one is, of course, his Paris metro entrances, the metropolitan entrances. Um, there were amazing cast iron works that incorporated glass works as well, because glass and iron were very heavily used in the Industrial Revolution. And got inspiration from flowers and insects, kind of show like this blooming effect with like insect wings. It's very beautiful and breathtaking in a way. It feels like it's alive. And shifting to another work of art of his is his furniture, or I guess a genre of it. This is Banquet de Fumar. It's a bench to smoke. Its organic asymmetrical vine-like form gives it fluidity, almost like a curved flower. And every furniture that he created was connected to the room in some way or another. Um, and he would often build like niche designs for specific things. Everything was unique. And that's one thing that really stands out to me in Art Nouveau. Urban culture influences. By the late 19th centuries, cities across Europe were expanding fast, with factories, trains, and new apartment blocks popping up. There was a desire to make urban environment feel beautiful and humane, opposed to industrial and machine-like. Art Nouveau responded by designing streetlights, train stations, and public buildings that were not only functional but also visually inspiring. This was designed for everyday life, elegant that could be enjoyed by everyone, not just by the elite. Industrial design and technology. One of Art Nouveau's biggest challenges was reconciling its love for handcrafted beauty with the realities of mass production. There was, in a sense, the loss of beauty in everyday items, loss of individuality. Artists and architects wanted to resist the soullessness of factory-made goods, but at the same time, they used industrial materials like cast iron and steel to create new kinds of beauty. One huge example, again, tying back to Guillemard, was his metro entrances. They were a great example. They were mass-produced, but still artistic. And Art Nouveau became a stepping stone to movements like Art Deco, which embraced mass production more fully. Integration of nature and architecture. Nature wasn't just a source of inspiration, it shaped how Art Nouveau buildings were designed. A good example of this was Gaudi, how he used tree-like columns and spiral staircases based on snail shell and zoomorphic forms. This later became known as more as biomimicry. And then Guimard also used these influences from dragonflies, ferns, and lilies by crafting stair rails that look like parts of tree stems. They weren't just decorative, they were structural solutions derived from natural logic. In this way, Art Nouveau anticipated the later ideas like, again, biomimicry and sustainable design, showing how nature can guide not only just through form, but also functionality. And then finally, the decline and revival of Art Nouveau. Um, Despite the innovation, Art Nouveau declined quickly. Its elaborate detail became too expensive and impractical, especially after World War One, when people needed efficiency and rebuilding. Modernism replaced it, and with cleaner lines and minimalism, uh, but again, it lost that individuality that we see in Art Nouveau. But around the 1960s, 1970s, Art Nouveau saw a revival, especially through graphic design and historical preservation. Today, it's celebrated for its artisanal and for its artistry and its bold attempt to unify life, art, and nature. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll leave it to my next um, partner so she can let you guys know a little bit more about the rest of Art Nouveau history.
Hello, my name is Estrella Hernandez. I have the slides for our Art Nouveau project, the last ones. And first, I'll begin talking about the decline of Art Nouveau. World War One ultimately led to the decline in artistic production after a peak during the 20th century because the focus left from ornamentation back to military and everything. And there was also new artistic movements beginning to rise, including the Bauhaus, Modernism, and Art Deco. Lavish designs were also viewed as purely ornamental, leading to a decline in appeal in this time period. And so Art Nouveau was seen mostly as just ornamental, which was one of the reasons why there was a decline after World War One. Though this period was short lived, Art Nouveau's influence of organic forms and the unity of aesthetics and function laid the groundwork for modernism later on. Art Deco also relies on lines to emphasize energy and movement, which was influenced by the movement of Art Nouveau. And there's also elements of plans, forms, and curved shapes in a lot of popular Art Deco designs which were implemented. So, though Art Nouveau was short lived, it did have a strong artistic impact for movements later on, like Art Deco and modernism. And I'll briefly talk about Kalaman Moser. He was a man who envisioned arts, crafts, and designs as an all embracing synthesis of the arts. He wanted to affect every aspect of everyday lifestyle through design, so not just art, but also just the way that we live in general. And he was one of the first graphic designers. He created books, fashion, and even stained glass and silverware. So he touched on a lot of everyday life things from clothes to silverware. And there was also um, the thought of Wiener Wertstedt. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but it's this idea that everyday objects deserve the attention of artwork and good design must become the norm. And this was the idea behind Wiener Werkstatt, the artistic organization brought to life by Moser and other designers and architects. And here are some of the designs that Moser did. So first to the very far left, we have an armchair, which is very it's checkered, it's decorative, it's a practical chair, and it has also wooden material. There's also the worsted brass table lamp, which is a brass material lamp with a curved top and like a half cage design on it. There's also this Vienna Secession pendant light, which is a beaded string decorated ceiling lamp with a rounded material for the light bulb to be inserted. And so Kalaman Moser was one of these artists during the Art Nouveau movement. And here we also have Émile Gallet. He was a French glass and furniture designer. He created deeply colored opaque pieces with plant motifs. And Gallet's glasswork style was internationally recognized and also mimicked by other artists. His contributions to Art Nouveau include the free, asymmetric naturalism of his works, and his versatile education in botany, inspiration from the Rococo period, and incorporation of quotations from symbolist authors all contributed to his designs. And here are a couple of Emile Gallet's designs. There's this to the very far left, there's a vase with relief decoration. It's a very like green turquoise decorative vase with greenery, so it has like leaves and branches. In the middle, we have the sous l'eau du son, which is under the water of the dream in French. There's also an acid etched and wheel cut glass with pink and black colors. It's a tall vase. And to the very far right, we have the clematis vase, which is a blown out glass vase with strong blue colors and a distinct floral pattern. And I found the very far right very interesting because he also continued the design on the inside of the vase, which I thought was really nice. As for the Art Nouveau revival, there was a decline after World War One, but Art Nouveau resurfaced during the 1960s due to the counterculture influence, which rejected the politics and aesthetics after World War Two. So by utilizing fonts which were considered illegible at the time, hippies could distance themselves from the corporate design of America, which was more or which was viewed as like somewhat formal. So they created a stance using Art Nouveau and graphic design. So this Art Nouveau revival period had an impact on various artistic disciplines, including graphic design, fashion, language, philosophy, and even more things as well. As for Art Nouveau today, many places orchestrate museum exhibits dedicated to Art Nouveau and his artwork. By doing so, places across the world such as Villa Ortiz Basulado in Argentina, Horta Museum in Belgium, Musée d'Orsay in France, and countless other places not only showcase the designs of Art Nouveau movement, but also inspire groups of people from distinct generations to continue developing the arts. As for the significance of Art Nouveau, prior to it being a thing, poorly made objects from earlier periods dominated the decorative arts. So then there began to arise this desire to abandon this craft of poorly made objects, which made a strong mark on Art Nouveau, claiming the movement's modernity. And Art Nouveau in general revived good workmanship, the crafts, and produced modern designs that reflected the time period. So, overall, though Art Nouveau was very short lived, it definitely held its impact on movements later on and even had a revival. So, yeah, thank you so much for listening. And here is our collaborative works cited Google document, which has all of our citations. And yeah, thank you.